My parents erased me from their lives on my 21st birthday. But 5 years later, I built an empire they couldn't afford to walk into. If you're ready for a story of revenge, resilience, and rising above the ones who tried to break you, hit that subscribe button and don't miss a second. I never expected my 21st birthday to be the night I stopped being a daughter. The desert wind stung my cheeks as I stood outside the small adobe house in Santa Fe, gripping the cracked handle of my old duffel bag. The dry air was sharp, but it wasn't the cold that made me shiver. Not really. Inside, warm light flickered from the kitchen. I could hear clinking glasses, my younger brothers laughing. They were celebrating, but not for me, not for my birthday. For a second, I had let myself believe this year would be different. That maybe, just once, I wouldn't be invisible, wouldn't be the difficult one, the one who only mattered when blame had to be assigned or errands needed running. I had spent most of my life watching Daniel and Mason get praised for the smallest things. Daniel, the soccer star who never helped around the house but got new cleats every season. Mason, the baby, showered with affection and attention just for breathing. Me? I got silence, rolled eyes, and responsibility. Still, I hoped. Stupidly, I hoped. That night, I sat quietly at the end of the dinner table, watching them laugh, waiting for someone to say it, to look at me, to remember. Just a simple, happy birthday, Leah. That's all I wanted. Maybe a cupcake, a cheap card, anything. Instead, they raised their glasses to Daniel's new scholarship. My mom's eyes sparkled as she told him how proud she was. My dad clapped him on the back like he'd just won the lottery. "You're gonna go far, son," he said. I wasn't going anywhere. I was going nowhere fast. I swallowed, my throat tight. Maybe they were saving something for later. So I tried. I gathered what little courage I had left. "Mom? Dad?" She didn't even turn to me. "What is it?" she asked, her tone flat, impatient. I hesitated. The words stuck behind the lump in my throat, but I said them anyway. "Did you forget what today is?" She blinked at me, like I'd asked her the date of a random Tuesday in March. And just like that, I knew. I wasn't part of this family. Not really. Not anymore. It's, my voice cracked, but I made myself keep going. "It's my birthday today." Silence. Heavy, crushing, louder than any scream I'd ever heard. My dad blinked like I'd interrupted a daydream. My mom's brows knit together, as if I'd reminded her of something she'd rather forget. Then she sighed, long and tired. "Oh, Leah, really?" She shook her head, lifting her wine glass. "You're 21. You don't need some big celebration." That was it. No happy birthday, no hug, not even a glance of warmth. Just dismissal, shrugged off like it meant nothing. Daniel smirked, barely looking up from his phone. Mason chuckled at something on the TV. No one saw me. No one heard me. I sat there, small and fading, like I was vanishing into the background wallpaper. My chest tightened, something raw cracking open inside me. Maybe it was years of being ignored, or the ache of always being second place. Maybe I had finally hit my limit. Or maybe I just wanted someone, anyone, to truly see me. So I said it. "I'm gay." There it was, out loud, for the first time ever. The words felt like freedom and fire at the same time. My heart was pounding, but I felt real. For a second, then I saw her face, my mother's, still, cold, not surprised, just disappointed. She froze, her wine glass hovering midair. My dad's fork dropped onto his plate with a sharp clink. His jaw clenched, and I saw his fingers curl, white-knuckled on the tablecloth. The air turned. It wasn't silence anymore. It was distance, like a door slammed shut between us, locking forever. No one said a word. Then my mom let out another sigh, that same annoyed, tired sigh. The one she used when the laundry wasn't folded or when I dared to speak up. Leah, Jesus, she muttered, rubbing her temples. This is the last thing we need right now. The last thing they needed. Like I was a problem, a burden, a mess in their perfect little life. I felt like I was choking. I gripped the table edge so hard my hands trembled. That's it? I whispered. My dad inhaled sharply through his nose. He didn't look at me. You're not staying in this house if you think you can just live however you want. His words hit like a slap. Controlled, final, and just like that, I knew. I was no longer welcome, like he'd already made up his mind. It took a moment for the words to hit me. Then my stomach dropped. You're kicking me out? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. My mother stood from the table without a word and walked away, like I wasn't even worth the conversation. My father pushed his chair back slowly, his expression unreadable. You want to live like that, Leah? His tone was flat, cold. Fine, but not under my roof. The words slammed into me like a door to the chest. Are you serious? My voice cracked, a mixture of disbelief and rising panic. You're actually... But she was already halfway up the stairs. Pack your things, she called over her shoulder, like I was a chore to be crossed off a list. Something inside me splintered. I moved on autopilot, feet heavy as I climbed the stairs. I grabbed my old duffel bag and started throwing things in, faded t-shirts, thrift store jeans, the same hoodie I'd had since high school. Nothing worth much. Nothing anyone would miss. My hands were shaking as I zipped the bag. This was real. When I came back down, my mother was by the door, holding out my coat like she was handing over a dry cleaning order. Her face was unreadable. My father stood stiff beside her, arms crossed. Daniel was back on his phone. Mason didn't even look up from the couch. Not one goodbye. Not one question. Just silence. You can stay with your grandmother, my mom muttered. She'll take you. That was it. No hug, no hesitation. Just an order. Like passing off a responsibility no one wanted. I stepped outside. The night air was sharp, dry, biting at my cheeks. Behind me, I heard the faint clink of glasses, laughter drifting through the windows. They'd already moved on. I stood there for a few seconds, staring at the house I'd lived in my whole life. Then I turned and walked down the sidewalk, dragging my suitcase behind me. I didn't cry, not when I reached Grandma's door. Not when she opened it, her face quiet with sadness and acceptance. Like she'd known this day would come. She didn't ask. She just stepped aside, wrapped me in a blanket, and let me in. That night, I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. My chest felt hollow. This wasn't a dream. This was my life now. I was really gone. And yet, beneath the numbness and quiet heartbreak, something else started to take root. A slow, burning rage. Looking back now, it was never just about that night. It had been building for years. The signs were all there. I just didn't want to believe them. I wasn't just the oldest. I was the extra. The invisible one. Daniel got a brand new Jeep at 16. I got a bus schedule taped to the fridge. Mason had weekends full of sleepovers, new video games, and school trips. I got hand-me-down sneakers and lectures about being responsible. Daniel never touched a dish. Mason didn't know how to fold a towel. Meanwhile, I was scrubbing the baseboards, making dinner, cleaning up after everyone like it was my job. But I wasn't a daughter. Not really. I was staff. And for 21 years, I kept hoping that if I just did enough, worked harder, smiled through it, said yes every time, maybe I'd finally matter. Maybe I'd finally earn their love. 3 days after they threw me out, the first text came in. Mom, Leah, you need to come home this weekend. Daniel has a job interview, and I need you to watch Mason. No, how are you? No, we miss you. Just orders. Like nothing had happened. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could have replied. Could have begged to be seen again. Instead, I left her on read. And oh, the messages kept coming. Mom, Leah, answer me. Mom, don't be selfish. Dad, family helps family. You need to step up. That one? That one made me laugh. Step up? For the people who threw me out like trash the second I showed them who I really was? No, not this time. At first, I know they thought I'd cave, that I'd come crawling back like I always did, eager to be useful, desperate to belong. But this time, I didn't. And slowly, their perfect little world started cracking. Daniel had to do his own laundry. Mason made his own cereal and burned it. And suddenly, without their built-in servant, they had to face the mess they created. I didn't even have to ask for updates. Grandma told me everything. She still talked to my mom now and then, still tried to believe in reconciliation. But things slipped out. Your mom's overwhelmed. Good. Daniel's furious. Had to make his own breakfast. Fantastic. Mason says the house is a disaster. Perfect. I didn't gloat. Not outwardly. But inside? I smiled. They were so sure they'd be better off without me, so confident when they pushed me out the door. And now, they were drowning. Without the daughter they never cared to keep. But I didn't go back. I didn't call. I didn't break. Instead, I started thinking. Really thinking. For the first time in my life, I wasn't holding up someone else's world. I wasn't stitching together a family that never cared if I was whole. So I asked myself, what if I did something for me? Just me. I picked up a part-time job at a quiet coffee shop down the street. It wasn't glamorous and it definitely didn't pay much, but it was mine. My hours, my effort, my name on the paycheck. And that first check? I held it in both hands and cried. Not because it was a lot, but because no one else touched it before I did. No one counted it. No one claimed it. I started saving, dreaming, planning ahead. Weeks passed, then months. And for the first time ever, I wasn't waiting for someone to yell my name, ask for a favor, or pretend I didn't exist unless they needed something. I was free. The messages kept coming, but I stopped reading them. None of them ever said sorry. None ever said we were wrong. They just wanted their helper back. Then, one afternoon, a message came through. Mom, Leah, we need to talk. I almost deleted it. But before I could, another followed. Mom, your father lost his job. Things are tight. You need to stop being childish and come home. I actually laughed. Right there in the middle of my shift. Loud and unapologetic. Childish? These were the same people who threw me out like trash the second I said who I was. And now they wanted me back? Not because they missed me, but because they needed a backup plan. That was when it hit me. They had never loved me. They only ever loved what I could do for them. So I took a deep breath and I typed, Me, I'm not your daughter when it's inconvenient. You made that clear. Take care. Then I blocked her number, blocked his, blocked Daniel's, Mason's, just in case. And just like that, I erased them, the way they once erased me. I focused on my future. The job at the coffee shop eventually turned into a shift lead position. That turned into management. Management turned into savings. And saving turned into a dream. It took years, long, exhausting years of early mornings, late nights, budgeting every cent, and reminding myself every single day, you are not what they said you were. And then finally, at 22, I opened the doors to my own boutique, right here in Santa Fe. Not just any shop. It was a curated space filled with high-end, repurposed fashion, because I knew exactly what it felt like to grow up wearing clothes other people had thrown away. And I wanted to create something beautiful out of the discarded. It was mine. Every hanger, every light fixture, every detail. For the first time, I wasn't surviving. I was thriving. I didn't hear from my family for nearly 5 years. Not a word. Until one gray December afternoon, when the bell above the boutique door chimed, and I looked up. It was her, my mother. She looked smaller, tired, worn down by time and whatever life had thrown at her. I didn't say anything at first. I let her look around. The clean wood floors, the curated displays, the warmth of the space I had built from scratch. Then her eyes landed on me. "Leah," she said. Her voice cracked with something like hope. I smiled. Not out of cruelty, not out of anger, just calm. "Can I help you find something?" I asked. She blinked, confused. "What?" "This is a business," I said smoothly. "You're a customer. Can I help you with anything?" She froze. Her lips parted, then shut again. I saw her jaw tighten. Her hands twitch against the strap of her old leather purse. She wasn't used to this, being on the outside, being a stranger. But that's exactly what she was now. I let the silence sit there between us. Thick. Heavy. Then she straightened up and said, "Leah, I didn't expect to find you here." Liar. Of course she had come looking for me. I knew why. She needed something. She always did. Over the years, little whispers had trickled in from old neighbors, former church friends, even Grandma. Dad had been laid off after his company downsized. Daniel, their golden boy, had been fired from 2 jobs in a row. Mason's college plans had collapsed. And the house. The house. The house they threw me out of was under financial strain, and now, after all these years, my mother had finally come looking for me. But it wasn't regret driving her. No, this wasn't an apology. She was here because she still thought she had power, that she could manipulate me just like before. I saw it in her posture, the way she held her shoulders back, her chin just slightly lifted, like she still believed she had control. "This place, it's nice," she said, glancing around the boutique, her tone carefully neutral. I didn't respond. Just let the silence hang between us. She shifted, clearly uneasy. "I didn't know you had a store." I smiled. Slow, intentional. "Of course you didn't." Her lips pressed into a thin, irritated line. She didn't like being on the outside. Didn't like the feeling of not knowing, not being in charge. She exhaled, trying to regain her composure. Then, casually, too casually, she said, "Your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time to put the past behind us." I nearly laughed in her face. Put the past behind us? Like it was some teenage fight? Like they hadn't thrown me out? Like I hadn't built everything from the ashes of the life they shattered? "And why would I want to do that?" I asked, my voice calm, even. She gave me that look, the one she used to give when I was a teenager, when she expected obedience without question. "Because, Leah, we're family." Family. That word used to feel like a wound, like something I'd never be good enough for. But not anymore. I leaned against the counter, head tilted slightly. "Family?" I echoed. "That's funny, because I distinctly remember being thrown out of my home on my 21st birthday. Like trash." Her jaw clenched. "No, really," I continued, voice light, almost amused. "It's wild how now, after ignoring my messages, blocking my number, pretending I didn't exist, now we're family again?" She exhaled hard, clearly frustrated. "It was a difficult time. You know that." I let out a short, sharp laugh. "Best for me?" I repeated, shaking my head. "You really want to stand in this store, my store, and sell that lie?" "Throwing me out with nowhere to go was best for me?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp. "Cutting me off, pretending I didn't exist, was that for my benefit?" She hated that I wasn't playing along. Hated that I wasn't that scared, obedient daughter anymore. I could see it. The way her mouth tightened, her shoulders stiffened. "We were upset," she said finally, her voice clipped. "You blindsided us, Leah. You didn't even give us time to process." "Process what?" I snapped. "That I'm gay? That I wasn't your perfect little puppet anymore? Face it, Mom. You didn't want time to process. You wanted an excuse to get rid of me." She flinched, her face twisted, not with guilt, but with something bitter, because she knew I was right. But she wasn't ready to lose. Not yet. "You've always been dramatic," she said, her voice dipping into that condescending tone I hadn't heard in years. The one she used when I was 12 and crying from exhaustion, still scrubbing dishes while Mason played video games. "You always played the victim, Leah," she added, tilting her head, almost smug. "And I see that hasn't changed." And just like that, the mask slipped. No more fake concern, no more strained apologies. This was the real her. The woman who never saw me as a person, only as a problem. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was done. I stood straighter, adjusting the sleeve of my blazer with slow, deliberate precision. Then I looked her dead in the eye and smiled. "You know what, Mom?" I said quietly. "You're right. I have changed." She blinked, uncertain. "I used to crave your approval. I used to think that if I just worked harder, stayed quiet, followed the rules, maybe one day you'd love me, like you love Daniel or Mason." I stepped closer, watched her spine go rigid. "But I finally get it now." I paused. "I don't need you. I don't need your validation. I don't need your approval. And I sure as hell don't need this fake attempt to reconnect just because your life is falling apart." Her lips parted to speak, but I didn't let her. "So let me make this easy," I said, voice steady, low. "You lost me years ago, and you're never getting me back." Then I turned my back on her. And this time, I was the one who walked away. I didn't look back. Not when I heard her sharp exhale. Not when she whispered my name like a ghost. No, I had spent 21 years looking back, waiting, hoping, begging for them to see me, for them to love me the way they loved Daniel, the way they worshipped Mason. But that day never came. And now? Now I was done. But they were just getting started on their downfall. I hadn't lifted a single finger to ruin them. I didn't need to. They had built their own collapse, brick by entitled brick. Daniel was practically unemployable. A smug, lazy man-child who coasted through life on the belief that rules didn't apply to him. But guess what? Favoritism doesn't get you a job. It doesn't fix your attitude when your boss tells you to show up on time. It doesn't stop HR from firing you again. And Mason? Sweet, spoiled Mason had followed Mom's favorite mantra: find someone to take care of you. He married rich, just like she always dreamed for him. But money doesn't fix character. His husband left him, packed up and moved out when the shine wore off, and he realized Mason couldn't do a damn thing for himself. No cooking, no work ethic, just entitlement. As for my parents, they were quietly crumbling, drowning in their own mistakes. The favoritism they weaponized for years had turned into a curse. And now, they were desperate. And desperate people make stupid, sloppy mistakes. It was about a week after my mom had walked into my boutique. A week of silence. She hadn't called, hadn't shown up again. I wasn't surprised. She didn't know how to handle rejection. She was used to snapping her fingers and getting her way. And when that didn't work, she schemed. So when the call finally came, I was ready. My phone buzzed. Dad's number. I let it ring twice. Then answered, voice cool and detached. "Dad?" "Leah." His voice was stiff, like each word hurt to say. "We should talk." I waited. Silence. Then he cleared his throat. "Look, I know things have been difficult. Mistakes were made." "Oh, here we go." "Mistakes," I repeated, my tone calm. He sighed like this was exhausting for him. "Your mother and I, we don't want this tension anymore. We miss you. We want to put the past behind us." I almost laughed. He didn't miss me. He missed what I used to do for them. He didn't miss me. He missed what I used to do for them. "That's interesting," I said, tilting my head slightly even though he couldn't see it. "You miss me now, but not 5 years ago. Not when you told me I wasn't part of the family anymore." There was a pause on the line. Then his voice sharpened. "Leah, don't be childish. Family helps each other. That's how this works." And there it was. The demand, dressed up in concern, the same old script. They weren't sorry. They weren't taking accountability. They were just waiting for me to fold. Because in their minds, I was still that quiet girl with downcast eyes, desperate to be enough. I smiled. "Of course, Dad, you're right." He exhaled, relieved. "Good. Now, we were thinking—" "Actually," I cut in smoothly, "why don't we meet in person? Talk this through properly. I could practically hear the smug smile forming on his face. He thought he'd won. That sounds like a great idea. Oh, it would be, just not for them. I picked the restaurant carefully. Upscale, sleek, expensive. The kind of place they used to brag about when money still flowed freely. A place where appearances mattered. They showed up together. My father in an outdated suit that used to fit better. My mother in pearls that didn't quite match the desperation in her eyes. They were still pretending they were someone, but I was about to remind them exactly who they were. "Leah, sweetheart," my mother said with a practiced smile. "You look wonderful." I didn't return the compliment. We sat. A waiter came, took our orders. My parents shared a look, rehearsed like a performance. Then my father leaned forward, using that low, serious dad voice. "Leah, we need your help." I raised an eyebrow. My mother jumped in. "We're going through a rough time. Your father's job, the mortgage. It's been hard keeping things together." "And how exactly does that involve me?" I asked, head tilted, tone light. Dad's jaw twitched. "You're doing well now," he said, like the words hurt. "You have the means to help. It's time to let go of the past and do what's right." "What's right?" I repeated slowly. They both nodded, hopeful. I smiled. "Chatrin." Then I leaned forward, elbows resting lightly on the table, my voice calm and even. "I just want to make sure I'm hearing this right," I said, tilting my head with a small smile. "You want me, the daughter you abandoned, to now support you financially?" My mother flinched at the word abandoned. My father's jaw tensed, but neither of them denied it. I laughed, loud, sharp, cold. "Wow," I said, shaking my head slowly. "You two really don't change." They stiffened in their seats, trying to keep their composure. "I mean, it's almost impressive," I continued, my tone light, like I was genuinely fascinated. "The audacity, the entitlement. After everything you put me through, you really think I'd just give you money?" My mother's cheeks flushed with embarrassment or anger, maybe both. "We're still your family, Leah." "No," I said, the smile dropping from my face. "You're not." I stood, tossing my napkin onto the table. "Let me be clear, so there's no confusion." My voice went cold. "You are nothing to me. You threw me away, like I was worthless. Now you're drowning, and you want me to pull you out?" I narrowed my eyes slightly. "You're getting exactly what you deserve." My father's face darkened. "Leah, don't do this." "Oh, but I'm not doing anything," I replied smoothly. "You did this 5 years ago when you slammed that door in my face. I just made sure it stayed shut." I picked up my purse, turned to leave, then just for fun, glanced over my shoulder. "Oh, and one more thing." I smiled, sweet as sugar. "Enjoy the check. It's on you." And with that, I walked away, heels clicking against the tile, their silence trailing behind me. They say success is the best revenge. I used to think that was just something people said to make themselves feel better. But standing here now, 5 years later, at the center of the business I built from nothing, I know better. Revenge wasn't about making them suffer. It was about winning. That night at the restaurant, it was the last time I ever saw them. I blocked every number, cut every tie. And in doing so, I set myself free. That tiny boutique, it became a name, a brand. 3 locations, a booming online store, designer collabs, waiting lists. I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I was the woman who left them behind and never looked back. I was somebody. I was untouchable. And now, standing in the middle of my flagship store, a stunning, high-end boutique tucked into one of Santa Fe's trendiest districts, where clients booked appointments months in advance, I felt one thing: satisfaction. This was mine. Every polished floorboard, every curated rack, every spotlight that made the fabrics shimmer. Mine. And them? They had nothing. The first time I saw Daniel again, I barely recognized him. He walked in on a rainy afternoon, soaked through his thin hoodie, dark circles under his eyes, like the golden boy had finally been humbled. Word on the street was he'd burned through every opportunity, fired repeatedly for insubordination, dumped by a fiancé who'd finally had enough of his arrogance and excuses. Now he was standing in my store, empty-handed, empty everything. He wandered the racks like he was in a museum, fingers grazing fabrics that cost more than his rent. When he spotted me, his eyes widened, not just with surprise, but discomfort. He hadn't expected to see me here. Or maybe he hadn't expected me to look so successful. "Leah," he said, voice cautious. I tilted my head. "Daniel, what a surprise." He gave an awkward laugh. "Yeah, I heard about this place. Thought I'd check it out." Liar. He was fishing, testing the waters, seeing if he could crawl back in. I let the silence do the talking, watched him squirm. Then finally, I smiled. "Well," I said coolly, "you might find our pieces are a bit out of your price range." His face flushed. A flicker of shame passed through his eyes. "Leah, come on," he murmured. "Maybe we could grab a coffee or something. Catch up?" Catch up. As if we were old friends. As if he hadn't laughed behind my back. Watched our parents tear me down and said nothing. "Sorry," I said sweetly. "I don't do meaningless conversations." I paused. "But if you're looking for a job, the cafe across the street is hiring." His mouth opened, then closed. For once, Daniel had nothing to say. And God, it felt good. 2 months later, it was Mason. I spotted him at a major fashion event in Los Angeles. But he wasn't a guest. He was working, clipboard in hand, headset on, scurrying between tables and catering carts. The same Mason who once rolled his eyes and said, "You'll never survive on your own, Leah." Now, he couldn't even meet my gaze. When Mason finally saw me, I expected that familiar flicker of superiority, maybe even a snide remark. But all I saw in his eyes was shame. "Leah," he said quietly, almost like he regretted saying it at all. "Mason," I replied smoothly, lifting a glass of champagne and taking a slow, deliberate sip. "How's life treating you?" He swallowed hard. I heard you own your own brand now." "I do," I said with a polite smile. "You should stop by sometime." Then I added, just lightly enough to sting, "Oh, wait. Actually, I don't think you'd pass the client screening process." His cheeks flushed a deep red. No comebacks this time. No smug tilt of the chin. He had fallen too far to pretend he still looked down on me. And I had risen far too high for him to even reach me. I should have seen it coming. The moment my parents realized both Daniel and Mason had failed to carry their dreams, they reverted to the only playbook they knew: guilt, manipulation, performance. One evening, after a long day of meetings and showroom planning, I stepped outside my flagship store, only to find them there. Both of them. My mother and father, standing stiffly in the chill of an early Santa Fe evening. Worn down, gray where there used to be pride, thin jackets, tired eyes. I let them stand in the cold a full minute before walking over. "What do you want?" I asked, voice flat, frosted with ice. My mother sighed, that same exasperated sigh she'd used when I was 16 and dared to speak. "Leah, we just want to talk." "Talk?" I echoed. "The last time you talked to me, you told me to get out." My father cleared his throat awkwardly. "That was a long time ago. We were upset." "And now?" I tilted my head. "You're what? Over it?" My mother's lips tightened. "We're struggling, Leah. Things haven't been easy." "Not my problem." She winced. "You can't seriously still be holding a grudge." My father snapped, his temper flashing through the cracks. "We're family!" Family. That word again, used as a leash, as a weapon. Now, it meant nothing. "I don't owe you anything," I said calmly. "You made your choice 5 years ago. I'm just honoring it." My mother's voice broke. "We're your parents." "No," I said, cold and steady. "You're just people I used to know. I stepped past them, pushed open the door to my store, and paused, then looked back. Don't wait up. And I left them there, out in the cold, just like they once left me.